Yeah, the good thing about this recording is that everything I just said, you will never even you will never hold it on to me.
Well, it looks like this is how we're gonna do this today. Um, okay, so I have the floor now, right? It's mine. I take it.
It's yours.
Okay. Cool. Hi, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for joining. So today's topic is on service design, and if you've ever been to any of my sessions, you know that I always kind of like want to ask questions, right? So first question first is, what is service design? And when I ask this, I'm like, when you hear the word service design, what comes to mind? I feel like the term is already giving ideas and giving information. So like when you hear the word service design, what do you think we're talking about? Essentially, this is the only question I have. Elsie, well,
I I thought you were asking us the question, so I was raising my hand up to answer.
Leslie, is she a participant?
She's technically a participant, but she's not supposed to be participating.
It appear.
But go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, service design. What comes to mind is probably creating a design for a service. So it's not for a physical product, but let's say, for example, the bank, our banking apps and the likes. Yeah, that's what comes to my mind when I hear service design.
Okay, so it's digital process or digital space related kind of service. I'm trying to remember or get correctly what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else wanna go and tell us what they think service design means? Yeah, just so we know why we're laughing. In the comment section, participants said that what's coming to his mind is interior design, but for church or mosque service.
Chineli, you're not forgiven. I'm just putting it out there,
No,
especially on this Sunday. You're not forgiven.
I apologize. I'm the
and
one
I
that
was
asked.
and I was
Wait,
about to thank Evie for not mentioning my name. And you now had to call my name Leslie. But anyways,
sorry. We've
let's
I've we've
go.
moved on. I apologize for asking. Anyway, so officially, service design is about simplifying processes that businesses use to interact with users and customers, right? And I'm going to be able to explain a bit more about what I mean um, in a few minutes. Hold on, guys. Just give me 1 second. Be right back in a second. So if we're getting back to it, service design, and I'm going to shade Google and the rest in the mid, or maybe not them, because we're technically the ones that designed the service. And one of the things we should consider is whether or not to post our link on a public channel. Um, but yeah, service design is about simplifying the processes that businesses use to interact with users and customers. Um, and I'm going to tie it out together in a bit. And so one of the ways that we're going to do this is let's just talk about like one of the so I think UX design is the closest field of design to service design because we're also talking about like um, designing experiences for people, and we want to see a little bit about how that interacts with each other. And one of the main ways to do that and to make this distinction is in looking at their objectives. Um, while the objective of service design is to create a smooth operation for the flow of a smooth process for business operations, and that would help a user in their journey. UX design focuses on creating a smooth experience for the users directly. Again, I'm going to give a little bit more illustration to tell us why or what exactly the difference is in both. And we're going to do that by exploring the why. So the why is also, so I'm going to tell you all the story. So imagine, so I think last week, I had an issue with a transaction, a POS transaction, right? And then they told me my bank has to really want to reverse it. So I used, it was FCMB. So I was going to meet FCMB to reverse it. Now, one of the major ways to do this would either be to call them on the phone or walk directly into the bank, because, or maybe try Twitter, but I've tried Twitter so many times. They usually respond to me like 1 year later or like 1 month later. So that's like not a reliable option. So if I wanted this to be done quickly, I would either have to call them or go straight to the bank. But then, to my pleasant surprise, I opened the mobile app and realized that I can actually lodge a complaint from the app, right? So I do that. And 1 week later, they are not still responded to the complaints that I had. So I eventually had to call them. Now, FCMB does this thing that when you call them, they ask you for your bank account number before continuing. And I assume that the reason why they're asking me for my bank account number is so that, whoever is handling my complaint already has some information about me based off my account number, right? And then, I give you my account number, and they eventually transfer me to an agent. And the first thing the agent did was ask me about the same account number that I'd already inputted before. I want to say, in their defense, that maybe it was a check and balance process. Say, oh, let's be sure that this person is the person. Because after asking me for the account number, they had to ask me for my full name and some BVN related information that only I should know, right? But the thing here is, first of all, I had tried using their mobile app to lodge my complaints, and that didn't work. And then I had to call them. Oh, and the best part is, now calling FCMB, they charge you. So it's not all free anymore. They charge you your credit. So I had two options. I could call them from the comfort of my home and they collect my money from calling them, or use my time and walk all the way to the bank and wait for hours until somebody responds to me, right? So things here is, in this example, I have so what user experience will be in this example is me logging into my app and realizing that, oh, I can actually lodge a complaint. Fantastic. It was simple as ABC, and that is a great user experience. However, the service experience wasn't great, because even though I lodged the account, there's a spam person that just joined. Even though I lodged the complaint, it wasn't considered, it did not go to the right party, essentially. So when we're talking about service design, a good service design would be, I lodge the complaint from the app, the complaints get sent to the customer support unit, and I get an email letting me know that a case has been opened for me, because now customer support has received my information, right? And then in a few days, it gets fixed, and then I get another notification to say that it has been closed. Now, the notification that my case file has been opened for this issue I only received that after speaking to a customer support agent, right? So service design essentially is the entire flow as to how we address a part of the user journey, like all of the things that happen while we're trying to do this amazing experience for our users. Do we understand that? We can use show of hands, emojis, and rest to show. Let us know whether or not we understand the difference between service design and UX design. Great. So just like other branches of design, there are components or things that you can use in service design. For example, if we're talking UX design, we're talking wireframes, we're talking prototypes, we're talking some form of competitive analysis and the rest. In service design, we have three major things, and that's people, props, and processes. And when we're talking about people, we're talking about anybody, right, who creates the service or uses the service, right? Or individuals that might be directly or indirectly affected by the service. So if we're talking about a bank, that would be the customers, it would be the customer support department, it would be the account manager, it would be the front-end developers, the back-end developers, designers, the developers, all of those people involved in the service. It would also be the security people at the door to the banks. everyone involved in delivering a service for the user or to the user in delivering a service in general is what we categorize under people. Now, when we're talking about props, we're talking about both digital or physical artifacts, right, that are needed to perform that service. So like the physical building for the bank, right? Or the website that you would visit, or the mobile app, or the social media pages, or the blogs. All of those are props, and it's because they all come together to provide a service for the user at different times or for different journeys. And then the last thing that is major here is processes. So these are like procedures or workflows or rituals that are performed by either the employees or the user throughout the service, right? So calling customer support, lodging complaints via the app, asking customer to repeat this information that has already been provided before. All of those things, or the generic email you receive when you say, "Oh, we sincerely apologize for all inconveniences caused." Those processes where you say you have to say that first, or "Thank you for contacting us. We sincerely apologize." All of those processes that you establish to say, before we render a service to a person, this is what we should do, or before a user can submit XYZ thing, this is what they have to do, right? And I have front stage and backstage here to kind of explain how that ties together. So when I say front stage and backstage, essentially what we're saying is things that a customer can see or not see. So that's why we have this illustration here, right? If you go for a play, what you're seeing is the performance. But in order to pull up that performance that you're enjoying, you have everybody behind the scenes that is doing something. Somebody's controlling lights, somebody's controlling the flying thingies on the screen, somebody is preparing the next person's costume to say it's your time to go, somebody. So that's essentially how it is in a product or a company. The front facing might be the website that they visit, and then behind that might be as technical as the APIs that are connected to the websites, the codes that is built for the website, or it could be the development team, the engineering team, the design team, the sales team. Those things that the customers may not see are what we call the backstage, and those things that the customers can see and interact with, or things or people that customers can see and interact with, is what we call front stage, essentially. And then again, like every other part of design or design related field, there are deliverables. And these deliverables for service design are methods in themselves, right? So you go through the process, and then the deliverable that comes out of the process is kind of for the process. And I have this diagram here to show that UX design, product design, all of this design, UI design, they are all subsets of service design. So if you've heard people talk about end-to-end processes, one of the ways that we can create like a more cohesive end-to-end process is using service design, right? There are end-to-end processes within journeys, journeys in UX. But like if we're doing like an overall end-to-end, if you zoom out and do an overall end-to-end process, then that would be service design. So UX design is a subset or a component of service design. And so in the smaller circle with UX design, it's just things that overlap or rituals that are kind of like similar to what we do in UX design that is also related to what we do in service design. And one of those is creating a customer journey map, creating archetypes or personas, and doing like a presentation on your research findings, or ideally basically research findings, right? If you did some form of prototype, then maybe show that. But it's two things that are really exclusive to service design, is service blueprints and ecology maps. And I'm gonna just tell us what that is in the next slide. So an ecosystem or ecology map is representing like all of the key roles that have an influence on a user, right? And this could be within an organization, or we can expand that to say outside our organization, what are the other things that can influence a user? So right now we have a medical ecosystem, and this might be a patient that is recovering from cancer, right? They have access to the hospital, and then they can go to the labs for testing, and they have access to their doctors, and they have access to pharmacies. You probably get money to pay for this from the insurance company or from their employers, or like, and then they have like their family and friends that will take care of them, or that we need to probably give information on how to take care of these people. There are like public information sites where some people will probably do that first before deciding they diagnose themselves before doctor diagnose them. Then they have rehab and other professional support, which is like post-cancer treatment, where you know you continue your recovery journey. Essentially, what this is mapping out like all of the touch points across the different phases of a cancer patient, the things that they would interface with that would influence them in order to get a treatment, and after the treatment, including even before like diagnosing the treatment, which is why we probably have that public information site, right? So an ecosystem map like this just gives you an overview, a visualization of an overview of the things that influences your patients directly. And why we do this, I'm going to tell us a bit later as to why we do an ecosystem map. Another thing, the second thing that is exclusive, or not exclusive because we're already doing this or stealing bits of this as designers, is a service blueprint map, right? And this is usually taking a journey, a user journey, and then we are visualizing the relationship. So for this, and I'm not sure if we can see this clearly, actually, if this was Figma, I'd be able to increase the size of the image, but I can't increase the size of the image. So essentially what we have on here is time, which is timeline it would take to complete this journey, right? And then the next thing is evidence, which are the touch points, essentially, that the users will be in, well, touch points, the things users will be in touch with. And then there is the actual journey that the user will go through. So if we say the user visits the website, on the line of interaction part, we're trying to say that one of the things that the user will get in touch with at this point might be customer support through a support chat, right? And at the backstage, we're talking about somebody there that's responding to the questions that the user has. And then when we say for the support process, we're talking about like a log that keeps track of the things that users are asking about. If we go next to the next page where he visits the store and browses appliances, there is a message that says, welcome to stores. Okay, give me 1 second, right? So essentially what this is we're telling you across all of the journeys that the users go through, these are departments within the company that the user interfaces with. On the front stage is the things that appear on the website that they can interact with. Backstage is who responds to that from our side. So if you send a chat, then backstage is somebody that's responding to that chat. So we do this so that we can understand what are the things that a customer might be in touch with, and we can figure out how to optimize the journey, how to optimize the journey, whether or not this makes sense. Is it repetitive? Is it redundant? That's one of the reasons why we do this, but I'm going to talk about a couple more reasons in the next slide. And before that, I'm going to take Isaac's comment or question. Who gets to? Actually, I'm not sure if I can do that. Elsie, are you able to allow Isaac, or Isaac, can you just type that in the chat and I'll get to it?
Okay, I'll try to let Isaac speak.
Okay.
Okay, Isaac, you can turn on your mic and speak.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know my hand was raised. My phone was in my pocket. So I'm
No
sorry
worries.
about that.
All right. So what and then we're just going to talk about now why we have these deliverables, right? The one thing that is key that I feel like is most important here is shared understanding. When you, first of all, when you want to do this kind of, when you want to create this deliverables, it is usually a workshop where you invite people from different departments within the organization to come together and create the ecosystem map, or to talk a bit more about the journeys and some of the components that the users have to go through. And it creates a shared understanding, so everybody is on the same page. And when everybody's on the same page, things move fast, right? It also kind of creates consistency, and we all know why we're doing this. Another reason why we create an ecosystem map or a service blueprint is to discover weaknesses, right? If we have that visualization, we can easily say, well, across the user journey for XYZ bit, maybe when it comes to information on our websites, the public informations, how do we manage expectation when the user comes to us, right? So we're able to discover weaknesses and be like, okay, at this point, maybe we are lacking and we need to do something about that. And that kind of takes us to the next point, which is to optimize processes. So you figure out what the weaknesses are and you start optimizing it to so it's better, and you have like a better output or a better experience for the user. Another thing is that it creates consistency and collaborations, right? Where oftentimes organizations and the departments within them work in silos, which is why I would lodge a complaint on the mobile app, but it's not going to get to the customer support team, right? And it's also the reason why sometimes you might be speaking to customer support and you tell them all of the issues you have. But then on day two, when you're coming back with the same issue, you'd have to repeat yourself essentially. It's like you're starting another consultation with the support team. So sometimes our organizations are built and they work in silos. And even though like the user experience on the app is great, the entire and overall experience isn't. And that dampens a user's trust or experience with an organization. So, service design helps you spot those weaknesses and optimize the process so that you are more consistent with the experience across board. So it's not fine here and then it's crap the other way. Another thing you can do is inform project planning, right? So by the time you figure out, one of the issues, then you can figure out where you're going to focus more. And if you figure out that this is a weakness for us, and you can say, all right, we're going to optimize it in the next sprint and make sure that it's better, right? And then holistic thinking, it just forces people to think through the entire experience of the user. We're not just thinking about what's going to happen on the mobile app alone, right? We're thinking about what's going to happen if a user gets in touch with the support team. And then we're thinking about how do we get feedback from the support team to designers so that they can incorporate that into the next sprint and fix some of these issues. How do we get feedback from the sales team to the designers and then to the developers? And how do we get feedback from research, from design, all the way to the sales team or to the customer support team so they are better able to handle user issues? So it forces you to think about all of the touch point that a user would have when you want to render a service rather than just on the mobile app or on the website. And lastly, to explain when exactly we use a service blueprint or an ecosystem map. If you want to define a research plan, right? So we have done an ecosystem map, and then we want to know, and we have spotted out what the weakness is, and then we take that information and we define a research plan to say we're going to look a bit more into this issue that we have identified. Another way to do it is for discovery and empathy, right? So when we do that, we're not just creating empathy for our users, we're creating empathy. We're making it easy for our staffs and employees to empathize with the users. So it's not just the designers or the developers or the product managers that are empathizing with the users. When we do these maps, again, we have to invite people from different departments, and they can really see how the user struggles or some of the things that users have to go through. And then they can have more empathy for users in order to deliver a good service and a good service to them, essentially. When we're talking about definition and prioritization is depending on the output of the blueprint or the ecosystem map, we can decide to say, yeah, this is really important and we should tackle this first, or we should prioritize this over what we currently have, because when we fix this, we're able to fix all of these other issues that we've identified anyway. And then we can do implementation, right? By the time we finish that, we now figure out that, okay, we've done this map and we understand what the processes are, and this is how we're going to be able to track our success going forward, or how we're going to be doing. So essentially, when you do that, you can inform strategic decisions to start saying that, okay, we're not going to keep doing this, stop doing this, and we're going to start doing this instead. So these are like scenarios where we can use both maps and how that can influence product decisions in a company or an organization, and we can serve people better. One last thing. Um, Again, service design is not simply designing a service. Now, there's a key difference here because when we're talking about designing a service, we're talking about the what. What are users going to be able to do when they get here, right? But when we're talking about service design, we are talking about the how. How are we going to, that's my gate, I'm so sorry. How are we going to deliver this service to a user? Thank you all so much for coming. Questions, comments, chat box, and then I can answer if I've been such an amazing teacher, that's also fine.
Okay, if you have any questions, you can raise up your hand and ask. I'm muting mic. Okay, so you can go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for the session, Evie. Yeah, so I wanted to ask, so in terms of technical skill, is this a role that a designer has to, is it required for someone to be a designer to evolve into this? Or this is something that anybody from any discipline related to business development can get into?
Yeah, so like most design roles, we're not requiring you to have a design background to be able to do this. There are specific courses out there to just transition into, service design, but it's obviously easier if you have a business background. Maybe you're like a product manager or like a designer already, or maybe you're like an analyst. Literally anybody can transition into being a service designer. So there isn't any, background requirement for that.
Okay. Because there's a lot of similarities between this and business development. So I was like, is it me being a designer? Is this still something I can move into, like maybe grow?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. I
but
think,
thanks for the clarity.
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we keep it, or why we call it service design anyway.
Okay,
Yeah, so you can transition it.
great, thanks.
Isaac, are you actually raising your hand this time, or is it accidental? Who knows? Okay. But before we get to Isaac, so Chinedu has a question in the comments and is asking if this process is only meant for startups, or it can be used at any point within a digital product. So ideally, when you're starting out, you should do this. One of the reasons why it makes sense to do when you're starting out is because some of the information you have right there is, it's not large, it's not a lot, and it's easier to convince people and drag people into workshops to say we have to do this together. This is very important. But it's also very useful in big organizations and should be done in big organizations. The only problem with that I have seen so far is being able to get people to really join into these workshops and do this mapping. And then there's a lot of selling to people why this is important, right? Because if it's a larger organization, then this information kind of lives in the heads of people, but you want to bring that out and put that on a board where anybody can reference. And so the most difficult you might encounter with larger organization is being able to sell it or drag people into a group and say, yeah, we know you already know this, but put it out here so we can see how the business evolves going forward. We can track, we can create shared understanding and empathy for ourselves and for our users and stuff. So it can be used at any point. It might just be harder if we're talking about larger organizations. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome, Chinedu.
Okay,
Chinedu, why are you always stressing me, Seth? You can't talk, but you be typing inside chat.
You mean me?
Mm-mm.
Well, I guess I didn't want to raise my hand and go through the process of unblocking the mic. So yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Very good.
Any more questions? I think every you should ask a question. Let's be sure that they actually go on because this one everybody is quiet. I'm
All
suspecting
right.
you.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Hmm. So I always like to use a food delivery company when it comes to explaining service design and UX design, right? And so can somebody tell me what systems will come into play for a user who orders food from, say, Chowdeck or Jumia or any of those? So maybe run me through the things that might happen front stage and then the things that might happen backstage to be able to deliver a food for a user. Elsie, are we calling names or are we allowing people volunteer?
If they don't volunteer, I will start calling names. So Daniel has raised his hand. Oh, Daniel, you dropped your okay. Daniel's hand is up. Daniel, are you raising it or you are dropping it? Are you testing?
Yes, I am. Yes, yeah. So you said about child deck, about the what's going on backstage and first stage. So the first stage, like what everybody is saying is the logic. The back end basically like the logic behind everything. Why the front end is about like how it looks and how it operates from onset. Like when the customer orders a food, and how they deal with different vendors basically. So Chartered deals with vendors, customers. Then Chartered is just a delivery service. So most of the times they are, I'm sure they
Yeah, can anybody hear me? Or can we hear Danielle? Or can we hear me? Because I'm not sure who lost.
I
I
think
can,
we
I can hear
lost.
you. I can't hear Daniel.
Okay, I was very confused.
I think we lost in Jason. Okay. Bakara
Hmm.
is asking a question.
Are there any AI tools to aid in service design? Well, I mean, there is Chat GPT where you can just ask with a prompt to say, give me some of the things that touch points a user can encounter when they want to perform XYZ service. And it can list out some of that for you. Um, I'm not sure, I've not used any AI image generative tool before. So I don't know if they'll be able to do that, but I know ChatGPT can just give you that in text, and then you can just drag that out into a map and visualize it for yourself. That's one way I would use it anyway.
Okay, I think if you can call someone to answer your question.
Okay. Yes, the slide will be available. Is there
Okay,
service? Okay, then.
the slide you would definitely be able to revisit the video on YouTube before the week runs out. Definitely. So not to worry. Okay, Evie, over to you. You can ask somebody. question.
No, they'll have to choose a person. I don't want to be choosy person today. Someone should just like
Hey.
today's my nice Sunday.
I am not. The first culprit has been caught. MA, over to you. Please answer the question. I mean, you can go over the question again. So
Yes. So in a delivery company, right? I'm asking about the front stage and backstage components for a user who has ordered for a meal.
MA, over to you.
He said he came back halfway.
Okay, the next one. the next one, Taiwo. Taiwo, you've been here for a while. Okay, please give us the answer to the question.
Yeah, she mentioned like that um the front stage users are like the customers who are trying to order and then to order a meal, right? So I feel like the platform is like a self-service where you can that helps you order a food online, and at the back end there are people who gets your order and prepare it for delivery, some sort of like
Okay. Okay. Are you done?
yeah.
Okay. Chinedu, you can go.
I think Taiwo was actually going somewhere, but then she stopped. Okay, so let me try. I think first process is hunger. When hunger comes, so someone gets hungry or the user gets hungry. From hunger, the user chooses how to get the food or how to get a meal. So it's either cooking or ordering online from a food provider, which could be Chowdeck or Eden Life or Jumia Foods or Bold Foods or Glovo, whichever. So let's assume that they pick Chowdeck. First of all, they go on the app. From the homepage, they scroll or they try to find what meal suits their taste or craving at that moment. From finding the desired seller or food vendor, so the app is either categorized by food vendor or by meals or by proximity, that's location, or by discounts or whatever. So let's assume that they choose by proximity because of time. Their stomach, there's a rumble in their tummy going boom, bara, boom, bara, boom. So they need food very quickly. So they choose by location, and then by location they have, let's say they stay around Fagba, so they choose Mama Cass. So Mama Cass, then they go to Mama Cass, and then from Mama Cass. So all this is still within the app. Then so they choose a food vendor by location, and then the food vendor, they place their order, and then place their order consisting of anything. From that, it moves on to their order being packaged, and that is at the back end. So the back end or backstage, sorry. So the backstage, the food is being packaged because obviously it must have been prepared, or whether it's prepared fresh, prepared or packaged, and then it is sent out for the. Oh no, okay. First of all, their order is acknowledged. I think that should be in app, acknowledged, and payment is made, blah blah, all those processes, and then please, if I'm talking too much, let me know so that it not be as if I'm spending 1 hour clicking on the wrong thing. And then, yeah.
Okay.
Am I
Continue.
on the right path?
Continue, Chinedu.
Okay. So, payment is made order is received, packaging goes on at the backstage or backstage, and then it is sent out for delivery. And then there's a notification at the front stage that your order is now being delivered, or a delivery person is bringing your food to you. And so the delivery person is on the road. Hopefully there's no accident and no last mile stops them on the road. So your food gets to you in 10 minutes. And the food gets to them. So the payment option is either pay before service or pay on delivery. So I think that is part of where the internal discussion or the team has to decide which one they want to go for. I haven't used Child Deck, but I know Glovo does pay on delivery. So let us use pay on delivery. So payment is made, or food is delivered, payment is made, and the delivery person goes to his or her house, and then the vendor or the client or the user takes the food inside. And however he or she chooses to devour the meal, he or she devours the meal. And then, there's satisfaction, the rumbling in the belly stops. And then we go on to feedback. So Child Deck either requests feedback at the point of payment being made. Okay, your payment is received. Please do well to drop us a feedback after your meal. There's that. And then after the user eats and body have calmed down, the person now decides to drop a feedback. And then from the feedback, the business will get to know, okay, so either a feedback and a review, or feedback sometimes is reviewed or are reviews. So yeah, the review, maybe it could be like a kind of mini survey that will take them back to the app. That will be like, okay, did you enjoy your meal? What did you enjoy about your meal? Was the food delivered very quickly? Just all of those. Now that their head is calm and they've eaten, so they'll be willing to answer some questions, maybe 5 questions. So that way they can get accurate feedback or accurate reviews and know what to work on next time. Yeah, I think that is all for that. Yeah, thank you for listening to my long story.
All right. Thank you very much, Chinedu. So yes, your question kind of gives us an overview. The answer gives us an overview of the process, and you did mention some of the departments that it will go through. And the only thing I just wanted to mention is that while this is accurate, it focuses on, and I know you do not want to talk too much as you're, so it focuses on the positive or the ideal scenario, and things that would happen in an ideal scenario for a user, right? And so because I've not built an a delivery service before, there might be some other touch points, there might be some other services that they use that might be added on, but essentially, yes, this counts as an end-to-end journey that might happen for a user placing an order. So thank you, Chinedu. Also, thank you, Taiwo, because you also kind of started answering the question. I'm sure that's why Chinedu collected expo from, to just say, let me just elongate it and make it longer. But yes. Oh yeah, there's a comment. So Nathaniel saying, shouldn't a good service design for a food delivery company have a way to communicate to the customer where they're supporting it? For example, last mile stopping a rider. Well, whatever the companies decide to disclose or not depends on them. Would you feel at ease if they tell you last mile is stopping your ride? And what's that going to do for you? Do you want them to be that specific, or for them to just say there's going to be like a 10 minutes delay in your order? Sometimes part of user experience is being able to decide what information makes sense to tell the users and what does not, and how exactly we want to tell the information or show that information to users, essentially. So maybe saying last mile is stopping your rider works. Maybe it doesn't work. Or just I don't think you would want to hear that your rider took a break for 10 minutes to say he wants to rest, and that's what's causing the delay. So Meanwhile, if we just say there's like a 10 minutes delay, we apologize for inconveniences because that might be, a better way to communicate that to you or not. But yeah, depending on whatever the company says or thinks is best way to communicate to the users, I can't say for sure or whether or not that would be a better way. Okay. Well, it looks like Chinedu understood, and Taiwo also kind of understood. Daniel too, because he was onto something when he was explaining and we could hear him. So I'm gonna assume that Chinedu's 10 minutes of rambling, 10 minutes of giving us the answer was able to also clarify it for everybody else. And we probably don't have any more questions. Am I right? If I am right, then thank you very much. Elsie, sending the floor back to you.
Thank you very much, Evie. I've learned a lot today. Shots. I did not know, I did not understand. Thank God for my explanation. You knew what I meant about service design. But right now, I know that it's not like that.
He also moved from designing services for mosque or churches to
yeah. So it was a very insightful session, and I hope we learned something. I would like us to have like, if you know you are in a place you can turn on your camera, please kindly do turn on your camera. Let's if you know you enjoyed the session in your mind, like you enjoyed the class, turn your camera, you can take a screenshot that you can share on social media that you learned this and this from this class today, and you can tag us across our social media at Overlay Academy. I'm looking forward to getting those tags. I'm looking forward to them. So making screenshots. For those who were present during our last Twitter space, Victor Fat told us that you don't have to wait for that top-notch content. You can give us updates on what you do, what you've learned, what you are learning. So take a screenshot of this space. You can turn on your camera and take a screenshot and share on social media. Thank you very much. For those who are, so I think I would like to know if you are a student of Overlay Academy, please can you raise up your hand so I know those who are students and those who are not students at the moment. Okay. Okay, Effie, there's a comment for you.
Yep. Okay, I'll share in a second.
Okay, so if you know you're a student, present, past participant, if you know you're a student of Overlay Academy, we would like to see your hands up. Taiwo, are you not a student? I'm not seeing your hands up. So we'd like to say a big thank you for everyone who joined, those from the Design Jobcaster community, as well as those from our social media pages. Overlay is kickstarting her 9th cohorts on the 20th of May. And if you know somebody that knows somebody, and if that somebody is you, and you would like to learn, be it UI UX design, brand design, you want to learn how to use no code web development tools like Webflow, just hurry now. There's discount though. Today is 30th. Today is 30th. Tell somebody, drag somebody. You can reach out to us on social media for us to share the flyers, the links to you. There's currently discounts ongoing for those who would like to register. We are bringing back our front end course, and it's going to start on the 10th of June. Yes. So Webflow, UI UX, brand design will start 20th of May. But front end, that is, you'll be learning how to code with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That class is going to kickstart on the 10th. So do well to inform your friends, family, your girlfriend, wife, husband, because this life we must make money, except you have jackpot and maybe it's too you have too much money. You understand? So do well to share with your friends and family. Thanks once again for joining this session. And please let's give a big round of applause to our Ogbonge teacher, because it should not explain it like this. We'll go back, I will not still understand. We'll go back, I will not still understand. So give a round of applause. You can also tag her on Instagram. Tag us on Instagram. I'm going to share our handle. This is a handle on Twitter. Hey, see me, I come every handle and finish. This is on Instagram. So, and you can tag us at Overlay Academy across all social media platforms. This session will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So stay tuned. You can check our link in bio on Instagram and also on Twitter for more information on how to reach us on YouTube. So you subscribe. There are a lot of things you see on our YouTube channels. We have different sessions. So it was a nice time, and I hope you enjoyed as well as you learned something. So I'm going to pass the mic over to our guy at the top, Mr. Leslie. Boss, are you still here? Hello, Mr. Leslie. Are you still here?
Yeah.
Okay. Over to you now. Thank you very much.
Well, nothing much. I think, Evie, thank you very much for having this session with us. And as I said earlier, I hope everyone will get something out of this. We'll be seeing you guys on our next session. Please be sure to look out for that. Again, as Elsie said earlier, our next course is going to be coming up shortly on the 20th of May. On the 20th of May, so please be on the lookout for that. If you know someone who's interested or you'd like to take a course with us, endeavor to register and take the spot. With that all being said, we'll be seeing each other soon. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Evie. Thanks, Elsie. Thanks, Leslie.
Goodbye, everyone.
Have a good evening,
Goodbye.
everyone.
You're welcome. Bye, Slim Design. Bye. Chinedu, you don't want to leave.
Sorry, Jerry. Don't mind me. I'm posting something on Twitter. That's why.
No problem. I'm here.
Thanks so much for yesterday, Elsie. Thanks so much.